Welcome back to Benny's Custom Works, proudly supported by Sparesbox. Don't forget BCW 5 upon checkout. Today's a bit of an interesting one. It's one that I, to be honest, never thought would come. But today's actually the last day I own this car. So about 7-8 months ago, I got an email, kind of didn't really think much of it at the time. A guy kind of inquired about the car and asked me if it was for sale, and I'm not really one to sell cars generally, but over kind of the course of about a month, we got chatting and started to sort of build a bit of a friendship. And yeah, basically, long story short, it ended in him buying the Stagea. So that's then led to a lot of work behind the scenes on the car to actually almost finish it. I kind of feel like we never really got to the end of the build, but equally it was quite hard to cover because there was a lot of stuff going on in the background. We're waiting on parts, all sorts of stuff. That's probably the reason you guys haven't really seen much of the Stagea for a while. It's kind of bittersweet. It's kind of the first big build we did. It's effectively the pilot for the skid factory. So this was built originally in Al's shed with Al, Woody, myself, and Marty. So I guess before I go any further, massive thanks to those guys for the help with the build. I literally couldn't have done this car without you guys, and it's a testament to Al's genius, the concepts that he came up with and the ideas behind the build. This was, for the most part, a lot of it was Alan. My only input really to the build originally was that it was to stay manual. Alan was really pushing to leave it auto, or to make it auto. My reason for pushing back on that was this Stagea was quite rare in factory manual, and it kind of didn't make sense to me to actually go to an automatic conversion. It would have made more sense to kind of pick up an auto Stagea. They're a lot more common, they're cheaper. But in saying that, the car that we've ended up with, there's not really a lot of original Nissan left in it as far as mechanicals go. I think the only original part of the driveline from the Stagea are the 2 rear CVs and the tail shaft, which was still modified anyway. But yeah, we've spent a ton of time and ended up with this product. But by selling this car, it's going to basically guarantee the future of the channel. It's going to let us do some bigger builds next year. We do have some stuff coming up next year that's not just kind of the bolt-on stuff that we've been doing a lot this year of. Also, the reason we've been doing a lot of that sort of stuff is we've been a bit uncertain about what's going on. We don't have a lot of actual money to spend, so things that we do outside of BCW as a channel, a lot of that sort of stuff hasn't actually happened this year. So we've actually had a lot tighter of a budget this year compared to other years, and other projects kind of have been pushed aside, and we've prioritised physically keeping the lights on here rather than building project cars, which, I mean, it's at some point you have to adult, right? So I kind of wanted to still be able to produce videos every week, but we've also had to look at what we can fit into budgets and what we can fit into time frames. Obviously, you guys are well aware that we normally do the drag week video. Unfortunately, this year we didn't get to go to drag week. We have luckily been able to do the drag challenge weekend video. We're going to do the Sigma engine. We finally have the 2.6 to go into the Sigma along with the manual transmission. That's a story in itself. That took over 2 months to get 600 kilometers. All sorts of stuff happened. Couriers just didn't answer phones. The guy I bought it from was a bit flaky. All sorts of gear happened in the background that basically pushed that project back. That was the one thing I was hoping to be able to continue with the back half of the year, but that engine's literally only arrived 2 days ago. So I thought I'd answer a few questions that seem to be popping up all the time. First and foremost, I'm going to give it literally 1 minute and then I'm never going to talk about it again. I'm going to give it literally 1 minute and then I'm never going to talk about it again. The Cresta is engineered. It's been engineered and registered for over 12 months now. We've actually just renewed the rego on it. We did consult with an engineer on the vehicle. He went through basically the whole car, start to finish. There was a list of stuff that we had to do before he would sign off on it. We basically did all of that, got it engineered, and then we moved it to a club-based rego, which is in New South Wales. It's a modified club rego scheme. Basically, long story short, that's done, that's dusted. I'm never going to talk about it again. I'm not going to reply to comments in the videos. But yeah, that's basically it. It's registered, it's engineered. The defect was cleared a week after we got it, more or less. So it's all been sorted. And that means we can now do things like drag week, drag challenge weekend. without fear of being hassled. Like I said, it's all done, it's all legit. There's nothing that now on the vehicle is actually really a defect that I can see. I mean, obviously, there's scope for a policeman to disagree with that, but basically the engineer's report overrules that. But in New South Wales, you have to actually go and get an inspection from a third party, like a workshop that's licensed to sign off on vehicles, and then they'll basically just compare the engineer's report to the presented vehicle. They go, yeah, it matches, cool, see you later. It's a bit of running around, but it does mean that you can get your stuff done. Another question I keep getting asked a lot is what's happening with the Mustang. First and foremost, just to clear it up, I don't own that car. It's owned by Benny, which probably gets confusing for a lot of people looking around when I refer to Benny. That's not me. Another mate of mine who's also named Benny does own that car. Basically, long story short, the plan is to run a 7 with that car, more or less in the current configuration. After we do run a 7, we're going to pretty much give the car a birthday. I don't want to give too much away because it is going to be quite involved. I don't know how much we're going to do here versus off-site. Obviously, we're not a full-time fabrication shop. We've got a couple of welders and bits and pieces, but I'm not experienced enough to go cutting a drag car up and welding a rear end in or shortening a diff. People like Paulie, those guys are way more experienced in that kind of gear. I'm hoping we can get Paulie involved in that build as well. I do want to update the cage or maybe even completely redo the cage. The wiring is terrible in that car other than what we added. So the chassis loom is sketchy at best. The lights are intermittent, then they stop working sometimes. And obviously, being that that's also a drag challenge, drag week car, we need fully functioning lights. It needs to be roadworthy as far as all the lighting and that sort of stuff goes. So we want to get that sorted. We've got to put some proper seat belts in it because in America you can drive on the road with harnesses, but in Australia you can't. For those of you that haven't seen the Drag Challenge weekend series yet, we have actually made a full exhaust for that car. So it does have a full exhaust front to back. We do still run the guard cut out for track, but we actually have a blanking plate that bolts to the guard to block that off completely. And we've also got a 4-inch butterfly valve in that side pipe so that when it is on the street, you can completely block that off and there's no exhaust coming out of it. But yeah, that pretty much rounds out the Mustang. We are also going to try and find a bonnet that's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, shall we say. That reverse cowl is kind of cool, but it's a mission to drive with. You can't actually see over it. Obviously, being a left-hand drive car in a right-hand drive country, it obscures a lot of the view. You're literally basically seeing out of a gap about 150 mil, 6 inches high. So driving it on the street without a passenger is a legitimate safety issue. So we do want to look at either a really low cowl style hood, maybe like a 50 mil cowl, or even a flat OEM style bonnet. But trying to find Fox Mustang stuff in Australia may be a bit of a challenge, so we may have to go back to the US for that. But yeah, the Mustang's definitely going to be here for a while. For those of you also wondering about Drag Week USA 2021, I can pretty confidently say, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to make it to that. Looking at what's happening with international flights, any sort of travel in general at the moment is pretty hard to do. And the same deal as not shipping the car for Drag Week this year. I don't want to be in a position where we ship the car over and then not be able to go. So the target at this point is 2022 to make a full-blown return with both cars. Yeah, hopefully that coming out off the backside of COVID now we can actually do more events. Golden rule, if you're playing around with your drag car, don't change more than one thing at once because you don't know what's made it worse or what's made it better. In my case, we actually went backwards a fair bit with the rear end setup. It kept spinning the tyres with a high RPM first gear launch, so we started launching in second gear. We actually did the whole of Drag Challenge weekend on second gear passes. Our Hughes Turbo 400 does allow first and second gear trans brake function, so that transmission basically saved the day actually for both cars. The Mustang we were getting down the track better than the Cresta, but we were still able to use that second gear trans brake function to ensure we got a safety pass. And for that reason alone, I think we actually finished the way we did in Drag Challenge weekend. So massive thanks to Hughes for their support, both for transmissions and torque converters. Those guys are fantastic. Shout out to Pete Nichols specifically. He's pretty much our go-to guy at Hughes. He just gets it done. He's so helpful, so considerate. There's always, nothing's ever a hassle. And he's so knowledgeable. Everything that's suggested or recommended just seems to work off the bat for the car, well, for both cars. We've also run Hughes transmissions in other cars as well, other than obviously what you see on camera. And those things always just seem to work super well. And the good thing about Hughes in Australia is we can actually service the boxes locally. So they do have a service agent in Sydney, and I'm sure there's other ones around the country. I thought I'd touch onto the Nissan portion of the channel. First and foremost, the 32 GTR. We are still amassing parts for that. I kind of feel like any video we put out at the moment, it's not really going to be enough meat to sort of enjoy it, or I almost feel like we'd be just fluffing it out for no reason. So we've got a stack of parts still coming. We've been impacted just like everyone else with freight delays. Stuff we would normally see in 2 to 3 weeks is now taking 8 weeks. Stuff we'd see in 2 months is now 3 to 4 months. So a lot of the parts that I've actually ordered from Japan, which are oversized, things like exhausts and engine under trays and some body parts for the car, obviously are coming via container. Everyone's doing the best they can to get those in as quickly as they can, but things are just slow. It unfortunately just is what it is. We're trying to do workarounds. That's obviously the other reason why some of the videos we've done on other cars probably aren't quite in line with some of the stuff we would traditionally do on the channel. We've done a lot of servicing and maintenance stuff this year as opposed to the modification side of it. But I guess on the back side of the modification side, Bentley Sylvia, we've done a few little things to that on and off camera lately. Still haven't yet got our idle control sorted. We are going to get that done as soon as we can. But we do want to focus in 2021 on just driving that car, like just get some laps under it. Hopefully we can start doing some drifting again. Depending on what happens with the borders and depending on what happens with Archerfield Driftway, we will be going to Queensland to try and drift that track with hopefully both cars. Shout out to Luke with the track. He's dealing with some council stuff at the moment. I do believe there's still a petition going, so if there is, we will try and leave a link in the description. Gian's 180 is also earmarked for some pretty substantial upgrades. Paint and panel, that thing's going to get a full refresh in the next 12 months. We've also got some Haltech goodies to go into that, sort of bring it in line with some of the rest of the Haltech setups in some of the other cars. It does currently have a basic Haltech setup in it, but it doesn't really fit what we want to do going forward with the car. It doesn't have any engine protection or safety features, so we want to add some of that. I'm going to try and do some more DIY wiring in that with the guidance of Dave, so I can give you guys the correct information rather than me just sort of freestyling it and then getting ripped in the comments or burning the car to the ground. So while we're trying to document what we're doing, we're also trying to give you guys the correct information from the get-go, which if you guys want to tackle something off of our information, that it is correct and you don't break whatever part you're trying to fit. The Nissan Chima that we've got, that's actually had a massive birthday as well. So we're going to be sort of giving a bit of an update vid on that as soon as we can. We're still yet to get that registered. It just kind of hasn't been a priority. Also, if there is anything you do want to see on the channel or you want to see covered, please leave a comment down below. We'll try and address that. If it's a question, we'll try and cover that later. We'll do another Q&A video. But we thought we'd try and clarify a lot of stuff that's going on both on and off camera so you guys are aware of what's happening. We're slowly building the channel. Things are going on in the background. We're always doing stuff to try and make our experience and your experience better. So we're always trying to bring new guys on or bring new partners into the channel to broaden our offerings and do all sorts of stuff. We do have some new guys coming on in 2021. Which are going to be related to that engine conversion side of it. So pretty stoked to have those guys on board. Also, do want to shout out to Valvoline. Thanks to those guys for coming on board. Really stoked to have such an established brand in the automotive scene also engaged in our channel. You can get Valvoline products through Sparesbox. So anyone that does want to get Valvoline stuff within Australia, definitely recommend to grab it from Sparesbox. I guess the biggest thing to happen for the channel in 2020, which I haven't touched on yet, is managing to get to 100,000 subs. We really want to thank you guys for that because the fans are what push us. The viewers are what makes us keep making videos. We enjoy making the videos, but equally we'd be doing this stuff regardless. But the fact you guys enjoy watching it and keep coming back to watch it really pushes us to produce good quality videos and hopefully it brings enjoyment to you guys as well and shows what we're about, what we do, and that we're car guys. We really love what we're doing. This isn't a job. We're not trying to be influencers. We're not sort of trying to skew all this stuff. It's literally just documenting what we're doing and we love it. The Century was our 100K announcement car. that's been a dream of mine for many years now. Working in my previous job, when we were importing engines at Ichiban in Moorebank, I started seeing these random V12 engines that pop in, and never really understood what car they came from for a while, and sort of one day curiosity got the better of me and started Googling it and finding out that these 5-litre V12s came in these massive limousines that were effectively for sort of high-end Japanese businessmen or people in power or in governmental positions. So I kind of shrugged that off as, oh, yeah, that'll be quite an expensive car, and I'll never really be able to get one. And also looking into it within Australia, we weren't allowed to import those cars unless they were a personal import. So at the time I started looking at it, there was literally one in Australia that was a personal import. That car is still in the country, and the same guys actually owned it for quite a while now. And that kind of put me off it for a while. And then in 2018, Holden packed up and whatever, that's GM things. I don't want to get involved in the politics of that. But that started to open the option of importing other vehicles. And while I'm bummed that we don't have a local car market, and it does really irk me that we don't have a local car production facility, that has opened channels and allowed us to start importing vehicles that previously weren't available. Luckily, the Century is one of those. For those of you that aren't aware or may or not have seen that video, I actually bought that car in 2018, and I did jump the gun, but the information I got at the time was that those would be eligible in early 2019 when the import laws were to change or loosen. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and I didn't actually have an import approval for that vehicle until August this year, so August 2020. So in that time, Rob, who you may have seen on some MCM videos in Japan, he actually stored it for me. So want to say massive shout out to Rob for helping with that. Also, other guys that did help out with that car, Christian and the guys at Iron Chef. Christian sort of kept me up to date what was happening. He was the one kind of pushing to get the Century eligible to import into Australia. So yeah, massive thanks to him. He was the driving force behind getting those things in. Massive thanks to Aaron at Import Monster. He also handled some of the oversized parts that came with that car. So when I purchased it, it actually came with an exhaust. So all of our oversized stuff was actually sent to Melbourne. Yeah, thanks to Aaron and the team at Import Monster for being so accommodating and allowing us to sort of slip a couple of things in their container. Yeah, Aaron's a legend. I've known him for probably legitimately 15 years, buying things from him when he had rampant imports. So he used to actually have a sort of more of a mainstream import yard that would sell parts and wheels, and almost like what we do here now, but on a larger scale. But yeah, they helped us out. Also thanks to Top Secret Top Auto in Blacktown. Those guys did the compliance on the Century. Basically, the vehicle was delivered to them. They prepared it, they complied it. They actually gave me the car between the start of the compliance and the completion of it, primarily because the compliance plate or sticker and the VIN tag were actually backlogged or delayed on back order because of COVID. The company that actually manufactures those is based in Victoria, and not being able to have those two parts means you actually can't get your car legal in Australia. So until it actually has the VIN and the compliance sticker on it, it doesn't meet roadworthy. So yeah, for about 8 weeks we kind of sat on the car. Not their fault, no one's fault. Like, it is what it is, unfortunately. In 2020, we kind of got to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Like, I was lucky enough to get the car in, and after a bit of time we managed to get it on the road. We've just done a bit of a minor service to it, and we're going to be road tripping it, not on camera I may add. Just going to go for a family road trip now to Queensland, again pending COVID stuff, because all these plans and trips we had planned out are now kind of on the back burner again. But yeah, we've all got to just keep looking forward. It is going to get better. We know it's going to get better. It's not going to be like this forever. So yeah, really want to sort of hopefully boost everyone's spirits, and everyone will be sort of back doing what they want to do in no time. We've just got to work through and look forward and be positive, because it is going to get better. It's never going to stay like this forever. Well, that brings us to the end of this video. I know it's been a lot of talking, and I do appreciate you guys sticking around to the end of it. I did want to give a full explanation, hopefully some insight on what's happening both on camera and off camera with BCW in 2020 going into 2021. I do want to thank all you guys for watching, all of our Patreons. I want to thank Sparesbox, Haltech, GFB, Hughes Performance, Hypertune, Empire Mechanical, Empire Elite Parts, all those guys have backed us and helped us get to where we are. Yeah, just want to thank everyone who's participated, everyone who's watched, everyone who's bought a shirt, some merch, anything that we've got for sale, for supporting BCW as a importing company. Thanks to everyone who's bought wheels or Subaru parts from us. All of those things combined have helped us to build the channel and to actually be able to keep going. I know running a small business is not an easy thing. Shout out to anyone who's running a small business in 2020 because it's definitely been a challenge. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.